Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Saddleback webinar this week. I'm Liz Mangus, Literacy Specialist with Saddleback Educational Publishing. We've got another great session planned for you today. It's a little bit later than normal, but we're hopeful that you are still able to join us and still have some energy left to hang out with us today and learn and take part in this great conversation. So as you are logging in and getting comfortable, just a quick reminder, your control bar is located at the bottom of your web browser window, and that's where you can find everything that you'll need to interact with us today, the chat, the Q&A, and the live transcript. Now, I know we all know how to use the chat by now. This is just a friendly reminder that when you chat with us today, make sure that from the little drop-down menu there, you select everyone, or it might say panelists and attendees. Just make sure you select whatever option is there that will allow all of our participants today to see what it is that you have to say. If you have questions, you can go ahead and put those in the Q&A area, and we'll get to those either throughout our session today or at the end. If you'd like to take advantage of subtitles, you'll need to click on Live Transcript and then select Show Subtitle. We'll get started in just a few minutes. This is a quick reminder that we are on Twitter and we want you to find us there and follow us. So Saddleback is there, as is our presenter today, Dr. Katie DiGregorio, and she's got 3 Twitter handles. So make sure you get all of those because we want this, you're going to love this session. It's got a lot of great information in it, and we want you to tell everybody else about it too. So go ahead to Twitter, follow us, let everybody know that you joined us. And that goes for people who are watching the recording too. I don't care if this is a year old by the time you watch it. I want you to tweet, let us know that you saw all of this great information that we're going to share with you today. So we'll get started in about 2 minutes. While we're waiting, go ahead to the chat, let us know where you're joining us from, and let's say hi to Katie. How are you, Katie?
I'm doing very well. I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate everybody, being here at the end of the day. Wow, welcome. So many people. I'm checking on the chat to see where everybody is. I know it's late, but I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. This is something I'm super passionate about. I'm really excited. Oh, hey, Mike, one of the guys who works in my district is here. Nice to see you.
Oh, nice.
And so it's just cool to see everybody. Hopefully I answer some questions. Hopefully I share some things with you. Hope you can take something away today. But yeah, I'm super pumped.
I'm sure they will. This is, I saw this session at another event a few months ago, and I was like, this one, we've got to bring it to the Saddleback audience because I know they will love it. So thanks again to everybody for joining us. And thank you to you, Katie, for agreeing to come and visit with us today and share this. So as we go on, I know we'll have people hopping in as we go. So let's just go ahead and officially get started. We've got another minute or so that will give me enough time to formally introduce Katie. So our topic today is student-centered learning for English learners with instructional technology. And how do we make that shift to incorporating instructional technology to really make sure that what we are doing with students really is student-centered? Katie has a lot of tools and ideas and experience to share with us today on this topic. She is the director of ELL and instructional technology at West Hempstead Union Free School District in Long Island. Is that right? So she's there. She's a practitioner. She's doing this every day. And she's going to actually show us some great examples too. So thank you once again for being here. Welcome everybody. And Katie, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Sounds good, everyone. So I'm just going to share my screen and I'll check in on the chat. Let me just go here. Okay, screen 2. All righty. So hopefully, if you could just tell me yes or no, if you see my screen in the chat, that would be wonderful, just so I have an idea.
We see it. I see it.
All right. Awesome. So the name of our session today is Student-Centered Learning, Shifting to Student-Centered Learning for ELLs with instructional technology. And thank you, Liz, so much for that introduction. So as she said, I'm a director of English as a second language, or ENL, English as a new language. You know, there's so many different names for it now, but I'm the director here at West Hempstead, and I also have a dual role. I'm also the director of instructional technology. So in a way, I always have kind of twofold going on. And I always like to say, I like to share stuff with my ENL teachers first. So they always get the beginning information. But like I said, I'm super excited to be here. I'm super passionate about this. This is what I wrote my dissertation on. My doctoral work was on instructional technology and the use in secondary classrooms. I am a former Spanish teacher and a former ENL teacher. So this is just something else. So we're going to go through some things today. I'm going to show you some examples. If you know, we'll engage in some talk via chat, and then we'll just go from there. But I'm looking forward to this. All right. So this is a great question that I kind of want you to start off with, is as you're thinking about designing your lessons, right? And this is something that came from a really big ed tech inspiration of mine. His name's Alan November. But he talks about this idea of using $1,000 pencil, right? Are we using new tools to do old work, right? So think about what we may be doing now using a Chromebook that's just simply doing old work, right? So that may be, and I'm not saying that that's good or bad, right? But I am saying that, you know, think about it, right? Annotating on a document. That's really not, that's using a Chromebook to do something that may be considered old work, right? So this is something too that I thought was so fascinating, and myself, yes, collaborative Google Docs, absolutely, right? So if you want to just throw stuff in the chat, I'll check in and out. But we are looking at a generation of learners, Generation Z, and these are our kids that we have now. They're born after 1995. To me, that's amazing, right? Like, I'm a youngin', I was born in 1988. They are the firstborn kids, AG. They are born after Google, right? They're born after basically the invention of the internet, right? They are text dependent, but they are not tech savvy, right? How many of you have ever had kids who know how to use this, but don't know how to use this? How many of you have had that experience? They know how to use a mobile device, but they don't know how to use a computer or a Chromebook, or don't know how to type. If you want to just throw that in the chat, right? How many of you had that experience? Just reading it as it comes in. Yeah, for sure, right? So we have kids, like even my son is 18 months old. He has never known, and because of the pandemic, he's never known a world without FaceTime, right? He knows how to swipe, which is crazy to me. Our students, ELLs and non-ELLs, are learning during an information revolution. Things are just coming at them 100 miles a minute, right? They're the first ones to tell you that they have a short attention span, right? That, you know, they don't want to sit and listen. And we know that as educators of ELLs, you know, that chalk and talk 40 minutes is not really conducive to their processing for language, right? And they also do, finally, this idea of social entrepreneurship, right? I used to have a student, no joke, he loved space. The kid had his own YouTube channel on space. Incredible, right? Like, kids are absorbing information and they're finding information, right? So as you're designing your lessons for your ENL students, I just want you to keep in the back of your mind, how are you designing your instruction, right? Are you using $1,000 pencil, right? Are you using an expensive Chromebook or an iPad to do something that really doesn't level up your instruction? So I want you to answer this question. How has this past year with technology impacted our English language learners or our multilingual learners, right? So what are some ways that technology has either helped or hindered our ELLs, right? So if you want to just throw that in the chat, I'd love to hear from you. Google Translate helped. What's something that's helped, right? What's something that's been like a hindrance? Using a computer for school, 100%. Access to tools, right? I'm just trying to see if anybody else, give you a minute. Right. What are some things like I know that I used to have to, I used to do, no joke, typing Tuesdays. I used to teach my ELLs how to type. Videos for visuals. Yes, they came into school with no prior knowledge. Awesome. Actively learning Canvas immersive reader. 100% this idea of equity, right? Digital equity. So these are great things, right? Face-to-face discussion to practice speaking. So it's helped and it's hindered, right? It's helped and it's hindered, right? So my question is, and this is what I want to challenge all of us to do, is how do we manage that, right? How do we use the things that helped, right? So this is a great graphic, and I used to show this all the time. This is what happens. I don't know if you've ever seen these on Twitter. What happens in an internet minute? There's 21.1 million text messages are sent in one internet minute. That's crazy to me, right? There's 500 hours of content uploaded to YouTube, right? So many of you are putting great information about reading and writing and where they're at, right? So as I'm showing you these things about technology, right? How does this impact our English language learners, right? How does this impact them? They're learning the technology, they're learning the content, they're learning the language, and they're also learning the culture and the society, right? I just love to throw this graphic up here because it's so powerful. You know, Snapchat and Google Home. I mean, it's just, it's, if you don't, there's a, down here, it shows you who it's from. So what I want you to think about for a little bit is how can we shift our instruction so that this helps all students, right? So we want it to be accessible for all. We want it to be personalized for our ELLs. And we also want it to be, facilitated, right? The goal is for us to take the step back away from that front of the classroom role and kind of now become the facilitator of the learning to kind of shift students and how they're thinking, right? We want to make it accessible. So one of the benefits that I used to find with technology in my classroom is that what I needed to do for maybe my entering level students and what I needed to do for my expanding level students, I would differentiate the same tool and send it to them separately, which is the power of Google Classroom, right? So it's all being purposeful in our design, right? Same thing with this idea of personalized, right? It really helps. And one of our district goals this year is this, and we kind of put a name on it, is connection before content, right? How do we build that capacity and build the students' efficacy to be able to do things and really show them that we are going to push the boundaries? And I will tell you, you'll see some of the information here. Our ENL kids, because of the purposeful design of not only my teachers, but their gen ed teachers of using technology has done leaps and bounds, right? So how can we promote student-centered lessons for ELLs, right? So now we're going to kind of get into it. So this is one of the major shifts. This is the work by Scott McLeod and Julie Graber, but this really has shifted my practice and how I talk, right? So we want to focus on 4 things. We want to focus on deeper learning, authentic work, student agency and personalization, and technology infusion. And these are 4 things that, if you notice, the technology piece is last, right? It should be a part of all of that work that you do, right? So this is a great graphic, and I'll just show you 2, and I'm going to throw it up in the chat. This is the questionnaire for the 4 shifts protocol question sheet. So I gave this to my staff this year at the beginning of the year. And it's all about, it's questions for you to think about when you're designing your lessons, right? And I found it to be really simplistic in its language, but really powerful, especially for our English language learners, right? For example, do students have the opportunity to design, create, make, or otherwise add value that is unique to them? Oh, that's amazing, right? So how do we have an entering level, a beginning level ENL student make meaning out of the first chapter or the imagery that you're finding in The Great Gatsby, for example, right? That is hard. Anybody who teaches English in the high school, it's difficult, whether you're, if you have no background knowledge. I used to teach US history. That's so complicated for students, right? So check that out. I highly recommend it. It'll really help you frame how you're going to design your lessons going forward, right? I did. It is in the chat. Oh, hold on. Everyone, hold please. There we go. I sent it to the host and the panelists, not to everyone. That's the template. So when you're getting ready to design your lessons, these are my 3 things when you're planning lessons for ENL. Decide on a clear plan for it. What's its purpose? What are you going to do with it, right? Are you just going to have students use it to look up information? Are they going to respond? Are they going to reflect? Whatnot. How to differentiate and meet the needs for all the learners in your classroom, right? I believe wholeheartedly that so many of the ENL strategies are so good for English language learners and their non-English language learners peers, right? So graphic organizers, the visuals, some of the tech tools I'm going to show you, they're all applicable for everyone. And then the last one is, in what ways can students participate to meet their needs, right? So what I want us to do is to go from the Jeep to the Bugatti, right? To the really expensive car, and as we're designing our lessons, right? So those are my checklist. So what I do want to just pause quickly is before I move on to this, I just want to hear, what are some of your go-to tech tools that you just love to use in your classroom for English language learners? If you want to just throw that in the chat, like which ones are your go-tos that your kids love, that you find that are so, you get a lot of information out of the kids from. So if you want to just throw that up in there, and we can have a conversation about some of them. Get nervous when I don't see a lot coming in.
Yeah, sometimes it definitely takes a minute.
Okay, cool. Like, is anybody listening to me?
I am. I'm listening to you. No, I know they are.
Yeah. So what are some tech tools? Oh, right. Yes. Okay, cool. So what are some of your favorite tech tools? Like, talk to me. What do you love? What is like your jam? Like, which one is your go-to? Google Images. Yes. EdPuzzle. Yes. Flipgrid. Awesome. Quizzes. Oh, that's another good one. That's right, because it's a webinar, so it's probably like delayed. Kahoot. Excellent. Nearpod. And all of the ones that you're giving me so far, Poll Everywhere. That's another great one. Pear Deck. Love Pear Deck. Just trying to wait, see if anybody else is coming in. Holy Jesus, it's 5:15. Jamboard, right? So these are all great, and you guys can keep throwing them in there, but these are some great tools that you can really jazz up as you go through. And you'll see, like, some of these tools, some people are mentioning Padlet. You'll see that in some of the examples I'm going to show you, you can modify those tools and throw them right in here. So keep them coming. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about here is Storyboard That. Oh, love Storyboard That. Read Write for Google. Awesome. That's another really underrated tool. It's a really Quizlet Live. A lot of kids like that one. So what I do want to talk to you about is we subscribe, and we actually have professional development from the Buck Institute, which is the Institute for Project-Based Learning, right? So they talk about this idea of the gold standard PBL. So these are the 7 essential elements that when you're designing a project for your English language learners, it starts here with a challenging problem or question, and it goes into this circle up to the public product, right? So my district where I am, we are really heavy into project-based learning, right? And what's great about project-based learning for our English language learners is it allows for multiple entry points into a lesson for students, right? So last year, and I'm very proud of this, we did not have, and I live in New York, and I'm a New York school and whatnot, but we did not have our state exams. So our kids for 2 assessments had to do a mid-year PBL and an end of the year PBL. We had an 80% passing rate on those PBLs, which is mind-blowing, right? Because of the design of the projects, where it's a question that they're interested in, they're researching it, it's authentic opportunities, they have a voice and a choice in what they're doing. They had the time to have reflection, they had time to work with their teacher, and they got to share their product, right? That is like a statistic that I couldn't, when I did the math, and I'm not a great math person, but when I did it, we had, and I'll show you one of the projects, the kids were able to really apply what they learned using a project. So if you go to PBL Works, and I'll just throw that in here, PBL Works, I think it's .org. PBL Works, and I'm just going to double check. Yeah, pblworks.org. They have a ton of resources here. They are always tweeting out great stuff about English language learners and about how you can set up mile markers. But watching the designs of the projects, outstanding, right? So we can give, the ELLs can thrive, and they did. So here's an example of an, what does it look like, right? So our students came up with a problem. So this was their middle, this was their PBL, and they had a driving question, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Their driving question had, how has screen time impacted students during the coronavirus pandemic? This was a question the kids came up with. This is what they wanted to investigate, right? What was their investigation? How can they counteract? And again, this was scaffolded appropriately. How they're going to do it. They're going to use the scientific method. They're going to look at different ways to analyze, right? And I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but when I have students first come, they really struggle with that analyzing and critiquing and deep critical thinking about a topic. They're just so used to reading about it and spitting it back out, right? Then they had to create a Google Slides presentation to present their findings to their community, which was the rest of the school, right? And they had a rubric, which is all part of the PBL work. And then these were some of the examples. Now, again, they scaffolded this by giving the kids the articles, right? So they had something to reference. So this was a really good way to kind of, depending on your kids, scaffold the material. So this was the problem, and I'm going to show you. And when I show you this, I get so excited. So they used, if you've never, how many of you are familiar with Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook? Is anybody familiar with him? Has anybody seen that? He's got great stuff. If no, okay, I'll pull it up really quick. Yes, Lupita, yes. So Matt Miller, TikTok template. So Matt Miller and my teachers, what they did is they found a TikTok template. Our kids know about TikTok. I don't know about TikTok. I don't have a TikTok myself, but what they did is they used, and I'll put the template in the chat. They used the TikTok template to share their findings, right? So they had a problem. This was what their hypothesis was. If you see that the teacher helped them with if-then statements, and I'll tell you at the end, but this is a young girl, she's in 10th grade. These were her questions. She collected data from the kids, and she collected it. How many hours a day do you spend in time of class? Then the kid graphed it. Incredible, right? This kid graphed it. How many of you have used Kami before? Has anybody used Kami? Yes. Okay, cool. So Kami, if you're not familiar with it, Kami is a digital annotation app where you can put material up and the kids can draw and annotate it. So the kid used, mind you, she learned how to use a graph from her math class and applied the math from her math class to this graph, right? So her math teacher supported her in graphing. Then this was her other questions. She created a pie chart because, again, the math teacher walked her through how to generate percentages and then had her do the percentage work for the data that she had, right? And again, this wasn't a project that took 2 days. This was like a 3-week project. Here's her screen time effects. Here's the rest of her questions. I mean, if we give the kids the opportunities and the access into the lessons, they can do it. I believe this wholeheartedly, right? These were her conclusions. And you can see, and again, it's edited and it's done. This is what she came up with for her TikTok. I'm just going to play it. The girl made this all on her own. She found the tech program herself. What are your thoughts on that? Anybody have any questions or thoughts or feedback on what this student produced and maybe some possible concerns that they have? Listen, I can't take credit for any of this. Like this, you know, again, when we are, that's where having the projects. Is it legal for school use? Well, the TikTok template is not necessarily TikTok. It's actually in Google Slides. So they're not actually using TikTok. They're actually using a Google Slides template. And it's super simple to use. And he's always got great ones. He's got like a Twitter one. But what's so good about it is that the teachers built in the material. They reviewed the skills for again, scaffolded for the ELL kids to do the math, right? So if a kid has the ability, yeah, easy to see them at the, yes. And again, it's when I tell you, and I would walk in the room and I would do my time, the kids were working, right? They didn't have that glazed look on their face, right? Because this was something that the student was excited about, right? So the final year's PBL, and this is another one, and I'll kind of get into it now, but has anybody used Book Creator before? Oh, I'm about to blow everybody's minds. Oh, if you have to pay, it's free for 40 bucks. Oh no, that's a bummer. So as people are trying, at the end of the year, usually we have a state regents exam for living environment. So what the students had to do this past year, and again, I checked with the students, they were cool with me sharing this. But hold on, actually 1 second. I do just want to pull up a different set of books because Dr. D, okay, here we go. Here's an example. So again, usually we have our state regents exams, and the final PBL was students had to pick a scientific phenomena and they had to showcase their learning. And again, because these are ELLs and some of these students are pretty low in terms of their language, one thing that you can do, you can structure their student voice and choice in a certain way where you maybe give them a variety of tools instead of just giving them, carte blanche, where you can say, pick whatever, right? Because sometimes our kids, and even when I was a student, we struggled with like, well, I don't know what I want to do, right? So one of my teachers, and kudos to her, she let the kids create alphabet books about a phenomenon in Book Creator. So I'll just show you really quick. Here's an example of one. The kid did on plastic bags. So he learned all alphabet related to plastic bags, right? Biodegradable, chemical is for chemical. Chemical leachates from plastic bags impair the growth of the world's most important microorganisms. So these kids created alphabet books, and essentially, but they had to know about this phenomenon in order to break it down, right? They couldn't know. Not necessarily. It really can be for any level of L, right? So Janice, that's a great point. So we have, where we are is on, we have a science program called Amplify, and the science program is all that inquiry-based learning, right? So with elementary, and they're really, they're still learning certain ways. You can structure that inquiry-based learning for them to be more like specific, right? So one of my favorite things I used to give when I talk to my elementary school teachers, and I'm going to show you an elementary lesson in a second, is a show what you know bingo. And you give them five tools that they can use to showcase their learning, right? But Book Creator, I have teachers who are using it in 3rd grade. Let me see here. Can I see them? I don't know. So we have 3rd grade classrooms using Book Creator because we use the Teachers College Readers Writers Workshop. And this program is very simple to use if you've never used it before. You would just click new book, maybe, and these are all the different examples that you have: portrait, square, landscape. You can do comic strips, right? You could also choose from templates, which are all these amazing templates that you can use that students can edit, right? So Book Creator is a super powerful tool for any level of kid, right? So like I said, we have a 3rd grade ENL co-taught class using it. I've also seen a 1st grade class start with Book Creator, but more so with the one page. So Book Creator is a great output for that authentic learning opportunity for you. Yes, Right Reader is really good. Right Reader is very good. I know Emily Francis uses that a lot. I know Janice, like, I know it's a lot. I am going to show you some elementary ones, so I do want to make sure that I kind of hit everybody. But I do appreciate, everybody type in the chat. So this is another strategy for student-centered learning, and this you can use at any level. So these are game boards, okay? So you would create basically, a game board, and you would give students tasks to do in each board, and in each box you can have accountable talk. I think I heard you say, I think. You could put in sentence patterning charts, like if you have an anchor chart in your classroom. You could also put in pre-recorded videos. Has anybody used Pebble Go? If you don't, it's amazing. Pebble Go is a great program. It's by Capstone. It's really good. I highly recommend Pebble Go. It's very basic. It's simple. It's great programs. So what you would do is, I've had teachers actually kind of use this to facilitate the lessons in their class, and then it allows one-on-one time. So this is the first one I'm going to show you. And again, I'm only showing you examples. So this is one that I used to do when I taught my beginner level high school ENL kids, because March Madness, right? NCAA tournament, that's like a big cultural thing in our country, right? Like people know it, they watch the tournament, March Madness. So what did I do? I made a game board. So what I would do is I would go through all the different boxes in different parts of my lesson, right? So maybe I would pull a small group and I would do small group with the students in the back. And I would say, okay, today we're going to work on box number 1, right? And then, I would give my other groups different activities to do. But this you can do, you can differentiate this, right? So this is one example of a game board that I did. This is a high school level 1 that I used to do. This is one that one of my teachers who teaches second grade, she has this. Hers is what they call a 3x1 game board tile, right? So the kids have to complete the tasks in the box, right? So this is a reading, then they have a Padlet, and then they had a flip grid, right? So I don't know if she created it. Oh, she did. This is her Padlet about how to be a good citizen, right? And she modeled it right on here. And the kids would read the Pebble Go, and then they would post on the Padlet. And I've seen first graders use Padlet all the way up to seniors to use Padlet. Padlet has gotten so much better. This is such a great tool because and I don't know about you guys, but we want to limit clicks for kids, right? So we don't want them to have to open up 500 tabs, especially if they're English language learners and they're struggling with the language. Now they have to worry about how many tabs they have opened. No. The game board is a one-stop shop, right? So it brings them to one page, then they go back. It brings them to another, and it brings them back, right? So what's great about, yes, absolutely less is best, right? So what's great about this game board is you could have, let's say, based on your levels of kids, you could have the same game board structure, but you could put in the scaffolds for your kids. So if you ever had a student who could not type or may not be able to type on Padlet, you could have them, where is it? Where is it? Where the heck is audio record? You could have them record their voice, right? So if they're not comfortable typing yet, you could do that. You could also have them add a picture. So what's nice about this is you're keeping in the back of your mind student ability, as well as giving them the time to process the activities that is in their hands. And then you can have conferencing and working one-on-one with students. So these are not so much tools that are like, okay, go off and do your own. It allows you to put the students at the center of the instruction and helps you facilitate what happens and helps to really get the deeper learning, right? So this young lady, Alyssa, she's in my primary center and in my intermediate building, my 4-6. Yeah, I mean, again, there's so much you can do with this. And if you've seen the way it is, it's just a Google Doc with a table. And then the last one I'll show you is this is one I did for vocabulary. So I did vocabulary words. And the reason why you call it a game board is if you wanted, you could create like a game piece and they could put the piece over each box as they complete a task, right? So it kind of is that self-accountability and self-check. But it also allows them to work at it at their own pace, right? And that's the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you all, and you can, is that we want our kids to be, our ENL kids to be able to process it and make meaning that works for them, right? So those are the game boards. Now I will say, and I believe Liz did share the PDF, but there's 2 tutorial videos here that are for you. It walks you through how to make the game board, like the boxes, because people always ask me, how do you make the boxes? So that's a really simple way to do that. So hopefully that's something that you could use. And again, I've done it with my I teach a graduate class. I do Hyperdocs with the game boards. And I've done it with my high school kids. I've done it with professional development, and it's that one-stop shop for everyone. Holy baloney, it's 5:30 already. Holy mackerel. Okay. So this is one, and I know one of the West Hempstead teachers is on here, and I'm going to show actually one of his projects, but Hyperdocs, if any, has anybody ever, I have it here and I've met the women, but this is the Hyperdoc handbook. Has anybody ever heard of this book before? All right, Janice said no. 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 Okay, cool. Well, not cool that no, but I had the pleasure of going to a Google conference. Oh God, long time ago, I guess now, probably like 2015. And it was up in Montreal. I had delusions of grandeur. I was like, I'm going to go to Canada for a conference. They talked about these things called hyperdocs. I'm like, what are these, right? So basically what a hyperdoc is that it's a one-stop shop for students to experience and learn the material in a very structured way. It's actually what I'm going to show you is it breaks it down into 3 boxes. Okay, so the Hyperdoc model is engage about a topic, explore a topic, apply a topic, right? So the engage is that hook, right? That's how you get the students to buy in, and that's kind of how you get them in. Then the explore is for them to learn about the topic. Then the apply is for them to take what they've done and learned about and apply their knowledge to a new situation, right? That's authentic learning, right? That's giving them that student voice. And then I'm a big believer in this, and maybe I made this question up or I didn't, is if we're asking kids questions that they can Google, we are not asking them the right questions, right? So, it's all about shifting about how we ask those questions, right? So and this is not my quote, but the quote from the handbook is, be a designer, not an assigner. Design lessons, not assign lessons. So the way a hyperdoc is, and I'm going to show you the template and then I'll show you some examples. And I love this, and it shifted my entire practice as a teacher, yeah, Donna, good for you. That's awesome. And really honestly, a hyperdoc is a nice way, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a really nice way to blend your instruction, right? So it's how to learn, how to give students the opportunities to learn without tech, like pen, paper, and whatnot. So we're gonna get rid of this one. Get rid of that one. Love it when I'm closing tabs. This is so good. Okay, so this is the explore, explain, apply model. And again, this is not mine. This comes from the Hyperdoc handbook. If you just do, the website is hyperdocs.co. That's the website, and they have a ton of samples. Again, I don't work for these people. I just know what works instructionally for me. So the explore, what you would do on this document, and again, I use this, and my first grade ENL teacher is actually using one this year, the one that's split. She's using it for her All About Me project. So in this box here, you would insert links, images, or articles to allow the students to build background for a topic. And then here is where you tell them what they're going to do with that exploration, right? Then as they do that, that could be independent, that could be in groups, that can be in partners. It could be however you want it. It could be with, maybe an entering with a transitioning, or an entering with a higher level. It really could be with whatever group of ELLs you want. Then the next step is the explain, where this is kind of where people always ask me, well, what am I supposed to do? Do I give them a video? It's up to you, right? That's the best part, is if you know that you have a group of ENL students who need that explicit, direct instruction, you can do that, right? Especially if you're in a co-teach model, this would be a great time to do maybe a small group where you do like a mini lesson, or you give them an instructional video and then you go over that instructional video, right? So the explain is for them to learn about the content, right? And what they're going to do with that content knowledge, right? Are they going to take notes? Are they going to just have like a guiding question? And then the last part is this apply, which is now what they're going to do is they're going to take what they thought they knew, what they know, and now they're going to apply it in a situation that's could work for them. So I have a few examples here, and this is actually one that Mike, who I hope maybe he's still on here. I'm not sure if he still is. He's here. So this is actually Mike's. He's one of our co-teaching. He works with a co-teacher for ENL. And this was his Hyperdoc that he had shared with his co-teacher, and she modified it for the ELLs, right? So the Explore was, they had to watch a video, and then they did a See, Think, Wonder, right? And then again, this is how they modified it. Then again, they had another video to watch, and then they had to write a sentence about what they noticed. Again, you'll see that they put frames in here, especially for the ENL students. And then they had a Jamboard, which students could post on, right? Which was their reaction. They all reproduce, and then these are their, their responses. And then the next part was he did, and many of you mentioned Pear Deck and many of you mentioned Nearpod. They had a student paced Pear Deck where they learned it at their own pace, right? And what's nice about that is that even if you wanted to work with a pair of ELLs, whether you're in first grade or second grade, you can do this. I've seen teachers in first do this. Again, it's a lot more pared down, but the way that the structure is, it can be done, right? So even if it's, here's what we're going to do, and you're maybe take notes on Seesaw if you use Seesaw. The explain is your direct instruction, right? Whether it's you doing it, whether it's a mini lesson, whether it's an instructional video. And then finally, what's cool here is he did add a must complete, like they had to do this, but then they could choose one of the others to complete the rest of the task, which is awesome. And then the last part was he used a human, it looks like population, and he gave them a real world scenario. Suppose in 2121, humans found a new planet to live on. And then the kids had to write on Padlet. Mike, I don't know if you're on there, but do you want to just maybe type in real quick how it went and what you thought? But I love that the fact that someone's here, which is great. But this is a sample of an ENL one that just worked really, really well, and it's designed well. It has the visuals, the graphics, and the sentences, and it really will help facilitate more student focused and not so much teacher at the front of the room. Yeah, I maybe 2 days. I'm thinking. I don't know if Mike can maybe pop in on it, but usually, depending on the ones that I've done, 1 to 2 days. Usually they spend the first day doing the top and the first and the second. And then the third day could be kind of like the extra practice or the homework. It really depends on what you're doing. So he said it went really well. Kids were able to follow along. Explore showed the concept in a variety of ways. The explain was a bit time consuming with the Pear Deck questions too. That's okay. And again, you really wouldn't know that unless you did it, right? So the other thing that's really good about it, Mike teaches high school, but I'm going to pull up the elementary one that I have. Let me pull up the elementary one that I have. She did one on community. As I thought I had it up, and I guess I don't. Yes, about 45 minutes is a period. Yep. Okay, this is one that my teacher in Janice, I don't know what grade you teach, but I'm pulling up an elementary one. K5, perfect. This is a lesson that she's doing in 3rd grade and in 5th grade. So this is another example. This was a See, Think, Wonder about members in the community, right? And this was her engage. And then again, she put in the modifications here. Thank you, Mike, for sharing. I really appreciate it. Again, she created a Jamboard for grades 3-5. Then the engage, which is fine. He had to squeeze in a homework. The Padlet, again, that's always good about the homework, right? So again, what's nice about this is it does allow you to have a little bit of time. But again, if you're having good conversations with students, you know what? Maybe having them do something like that for homework isn't a terrible thing. So this is another elementary one. She put in a video for, what is a community? So this, I think, took 1 day. This is actually perfectly timed because I know we have like less than 10 minutes or give or take, maybe less. This one was about where are you from? What are places that are special to you, right? And she used Google My Maps. And if you haven't used My Maps, it's actually I think it's the next one on my slide. Oh, it's not, but I'll get to it anyway. Where is Alyssa? Again, she did this. And then what was a really great scaffold is she actually put in a how-to guide for the student to learn how to do the tech tool, right? So again, this was something, and she's still working on them with the All About Me. This was, I think, a multi-day lesson. Oh, now what's good is, like Janice, you're saying our poll is only 25 minutes. This could be something, if you design it correctly in a way, you could do it every time you pull them out, right? So maybe a 5 minutes, you're doing a 5 to 10 minute explore, and then maybe some sort of explain, right? So you can kind of modify it. There's no like real time constraints. She also did here, she's got EdPuzzle, Bunsy. I'm gonna just share this one here quickly in the chat. So if anybody does want to check hers out, it's really good for elementary. But essentially that's how a Hyperdoc has really traditionally helped you as the teacher stop and really work one-on-one with ELLs. And what's great is if it's technology based and you see a student is struggling on that document, you could send them, like in the comments on Google Docs, just send it right to them, right? So the last thing that I do want to talk about with you is, I know we have so many of us who are doing our writing work, right? So this is a great thing. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if anybody's ever done a FlipHunt before. Has anyone done a FlipHunt before? Okay. Well, after today, you should be going to do one. Yes, I will share the secondary example. I'm just going to make a copy so that way I'm not messing up Mike's original. Okay, so what a FlipHunt is students would use Flipgrid to record their responses to different tasks, and you give them a point value essentially for I'm posting it right now actually because I had to change it. Hold on 1 second. Mike, hopefully it's okay that I share it. I did make a copy. But it is a really good example of a Hyperdoc. And then obviously too, I'm also going to share with you some of my examples. This is one I did for civil rights. Copy link. Here's an example of one that I did for civil rights. Okay. So what a FlipHunt is you give the kids a variety of different tasks and they get a point or a point value for completing that task. Now, it's not so much where like they get it right or they're wrong. It's more about the reflecting and the process that the students can either give themselves a point, or you can give them the points as you go through and you read, right? So this was, again, this was a 5-6. And I've also know that she's doing it for grade 3 coming up in the next couple of weeks, but this is something that I've done before that's so much fun. So what you do is you give the students a task, then you give them a QR code to the Flipgrid where they're going to post their responses. And then for that task, you assign them a point value, right? So they were doing their publishing for, I believe it was their argumentative essay. So I have never seen beginning level ENL students more engaged in talking than they were here. Because if you know Flipgrid, you don't have to show your face. You could just use the voice. They could record it 500 times until they've got it perfect. And it really lessens that affective filter. So they're not standing in front of the classroom presenting in front of their peers, right? So it's a really stress-free way for them to learn. So if you see here, this is the class. This boy right here, I don't know if you can see it, he's an ENL kid. So as they did the tasks, they kind of self-assessed themselves and gave themselves the points. But there's a lot of different ways that you could really do the points. And I did this for an admin PD, and I have never seen adults over the age of 40 have more fun than they did with this FlipHunt, because they just wanted to complete the tasks. But the questions that you're asking them are not necessarily a right or wrong question, right? So this one that she did, leave a video response giving them a compliment. So that's only a 1 point, right? This one was agree or disagree. Do you agree? Leave a video response telling why. And for the ENL students, because she did this for the whole class, she actually gave them like a card that had sentence frames on it for them to help them. Like, I agree with you because, I disagree with you because, I think I heard you say X, Y, and Z, right? So the scaffold is there. So you would make the different grids for the different points, and then the kids would just post their responses. I think I'm a co-person on this. Okay, so these are all the examples of the kids. I'm not going to show you because obviously like some of them, but like this kid here, Emilio, he's an ENL kid. He didn't want to show his face, so he did a voice. Awesome, right? Some of these kids didn't want to show their faces, but I have never, again, I've seen a lot of engagement, and this was a nice way for them to have a celebration about the writing that they've done, right? So there's one more, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to get to it. But I will, I'll be tweeting out some materials about it, and you guys can check it out at another time. It's my maps in Flipgrid, but for the sake of time. So as we sum up this whole thing, engagement is not a language barrier, right? We can engage our students when we design a lesson that has them at the forefront of how we plan, right? And about the different ways we design our lessons for them, right? So whether you're doing a project, that project-based learning, that you tie in those standards and those skills, right? If you're doing a Hyperdoc, if you're doing a game board, right? You are now being able to support more students during your time, and you don't have to be like Elastigirl, right? It does take time. It does take patience. It does take a lot of trying. Don't get me wrong, my first Hyperdoc was not the best, but what I loved about it was I got to have more conversations with my kids and give them what they needed than me standing up at the board, right? So I just want you to think about this quote. This is again from Alan November. Successful implementation of tech into K-12 education is more complex than providing students with access to computers and moving to content to online courses. Instead, we have to teach students to use information and communication technologies to innovate, solve problems, create, and be globally connected. I love that quote. Alan November, he's got great videos. And here and as we close this out, instructional technology lowers the effective filter for our English language learners, right? They don't feel so stressed. They can participate at a level. It allows for various entry points into lessons, right? Like you saw that PBL, that kid, I will tell you, was a second level English language learner. She was emerging. That kid blew us out of the water, right? But because we gave her something that she wanted to learn about, the kid flourished. These strategies allow teachers to scaffold for ELLs that meet each student's need. It's compelling input. It's interdisciplinary. It's math and science. It's English. It's social studies. You are able to have that just-in-time instruction, right? So they need this. Wow, you can build that in to support it, and you design it with your students, right? Because they are the ones that have to do the work, right? No kid in my entire life has ever come back to me and say, thank you for teaching me chapter 5 of The Great Gatsby. They never came back and said that. They said to me, thank you for caring about me as a person and wanting me to be successful. So that is my challenge for you. And with that being said, that is my spiel. That was the fastest 55 minutes of my entire life. That is me. I am Dr. Katie DiGregorio. I am the Director of ENL and Instructional Technology at the lovely West Hempstead School District. We are the RAM fam. Those are my Twitters. Those are my emails. This is the bit.ly link. I do hope that you enjoyed this, that you're not overwhelmed, because I don't want anybody to feel like that. If anybody's going to Nice Tea Soul and is in New York, I'll be there tomorrow. Thank you, Liz, for having me on today. I really, really appreciated all of this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you for being here. And that bit.ly link is actually in the handouts that we posted it a few times in the chat. We'll post it one more time too. But that bit.ly link is there. Now, of course, we can't let you go today without letting you know who and what is coming up next. So before you all go, I want to tell you about 2 upcoming webinars. The first one is on November 18th. This is the next one. We're going to have Dorina on. Those of you who are regular viewers, you know Dorina. So Dorina is going to come on and she's going to discuss with us teaching the American Thanksgiving holiday in the 21st century classroom. I mean, this webinar is quite close to Thanksgiving, so it will be obviously very timely, very topical, and just give you a fresh perspective on teaching and talking about this particular holiday. So you can check that one out and register for that on our website. The other one we have coming up is sort of a different format than when we normally do. It's more of a panel discussion. And this is a topic that we get requests for all the time. And it's specific to secondary multilingual classrooms. This idea of differentiation, how do I do this? So many people are feeling overwhelmed. I think we got a lot of great ideas today from Katie, allowing that technology piece to really help us out there. But this discussion, I think, will answer a lot of questions and give you a lot of things to think about moving forward. So you can register for both of these webinars on our website. And then, of course, we'll be sending out emails as well. Don't forget our Go ELL teen or our Go ELL literacy library is now available. This is content focused genres written at a 1st to a 2nd grade readability level. Lots of great academic and content vocabulary folded into these books. Reach out to me if you have questions. I can send you samples and let you know all about it. All right, so I'm just going to check the chat area to make sure we don't have any more questions. Yes, you can register, and on the website, you can go to our website and the registration information will be there under webinars. And the, oh, she says that the Saddleback handout doesn't have the bit.ly links. Well, they will go out in the follow-up email. So if you're not seeing them in the actual handouts that are linked here,
I think it's all the way at the bottom if you scroll.
It's the last one. It's usually the very last one. So if you don't see it there in the follow-up email that will go out tomorrow with the recording, all the resources will be there. So yeah, I have to go all the way to the end. But we'll definitely get that to you. We put it out there a couple of different ways to make sure that everybody gets it. All right, let me just check the Q&A area. Oh, you found it? Okay, good. Or it'll be in the email as well. So we don't have anything in the Q&A area. Yes, I thought this was great information. And I really like that Hyperdoc and the whole framework of it. It really gives, just having the framework and that blueprint for planning is huge. And then as you get more practiced at it, I imagine that.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
smoother.
your first one is never mine are always changing, and it's all about too, like, what I did my first year because I had different kids, but it's a one-stop shop. I buy into it. I lived it. I breathed it. And again, I put in the chat hyperdocs.co. So if you're in a pinch, they have a ton of templates. So if you need some inspiration, they have it on there for you. And if you just hashtag Hyperdocs, you'll find a ton of stuff on social media, a ton.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everybody who attended live after a long work day. For those of you who are on the East Coast, it was already the end of the workday for you. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate you, Katie, for coming and sharing this with us. As you can see, very well received. Everybody's very appreciative. And we hope you have a great conference. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. This is where you can find Saddleback on social media. We hope to see you there. And thank you for everything that you do. And we will see you coming up on the next webinar on the 18th. Yes, the certificates will be sent out in the follow-up email. You'll get that certificate. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a great evening.